Hi there. While many of us are torn to pieces and run to several jobs just to feed our families, while some are forced to work in difficult conditions for 12 hours a day, and it's not rare even to get into debt, there are completely different categories of people who just looking into your eyes with a smile will say, do you want to have a big, beautiful house and a cool car? Do you want to travel around the world and relax in expensive resorts? If so, you just need an old laptop and a neighbor's Wi-Fi. And by the way, this is really so, because this advice is heard every time that very successful people are asked about how to create their own business. And it's true. In the internet era, absolutely any person, and even a child from the smallest village, can create a product that will not only make him famous all over the world, but also increase his fortune hundreds of millions of times over. Don't believe me? Then you should definitely hear this story. A boy named Jordan Casey was born in Ireland in 2000 into an ordinary family. His parents were ordinary workers who couldn't even dream of a large house of their own, and even more so of a state with 6 zeros. Sometimes they could barely make ends meet, and the money earned was barely enough for a normal life. And as a result, the boy's childhood was no different from the rest, walking down the street, watching your favorite cartoons, and of course games. And this is how he spent most of his time, sitting at an old computer that could barely cope with basic tasks. Some will say, what's so surprising about that? After all children are spending countless hours on the computer these days. Perhaps we would have never heard his name if at only 9 years old, Casey for the first time became interested in how everything that he sees on the monitor screen works. One day, after school, sitting at his computer at home, he thought that it might be a very funny hobby to start a blog. And he didn't just think as most of us do, but started working on it the same day. Naturally, the guy had little knowledge in any area, to put it mildly. Therefore, he began to write about what he understood, namely the games that he himself played. But the more that he began to share information about what he saw in the monitor, the more unfamiliar things began to appear on his blog. By that time, classmates and friends began to shower him with questions, those to which he didn't know the answer. And in order to not be a laughingstock in the eyes of his friends, he decided to improve his expertise. He said, once I decided that I needed to study this matter better and began to read the relevant literature, I found various articles on the sites, which, by the way, were very boring and I didn't understand more than half of what was written. But at the same time, I set myself just one task, to be a cut above my classmates in any matter. So I asked my parents to buy a book on programming, to which my father refused. Parents in general were against me sitting at the computer for days, and it was even forbidden to turn it on. And besides that, there were also lessons and a lot of everything that I had to do around the house. And by the way, I offered my father and mother one option. I'm going to do my lessons and my other tasks, and as an incentive, they'll allow me to sit at the computer. And running ahead, I will say that each of them kept their words. When Jordan was 9.5 years old, his father gave him a book on programming. It was from then that the Jordan Casey era began. Having studied the book from cover to cover, the boy without hesitation decided to try to create his own application, but it was 3 years before the whole world saw it. From 10 to 12 years old, Jordan learned to create websites just sitting at home at his computer and at the same time paid attention to his application. While he was still young, his parents and sometimes neighbors often resorted to his services. He also helped his classmates in every possible way, as well as those who turned to him, but no one could have ever imagined that Jordan was also working on this project. My parents thought that I was just playing games, he said. They didn't even realize that I was making them. And through tremendous efforts, at the age of 13, Jordan finally unveiled his brainchild. His first project, Alien Ball vs. Humans, was similar in concept to Space Invaders, Jordan's favorite game. In the first few weeks after he came up with it, the developer gave it away for free to create buzz. Of course, it was difficult for him to break into the App Store. According to him, Apple found fault with the slightest bugs, and didn't even allow the game to be published until they were fixed. But this motivated him even more to improve his product. And after a few months, he released a new version of his game. The games sold on the App Store for 99 cents, and it's hard to believe, but in 2012 he topped the App Store charts in his native Ireland with a game called Alien Ball. He said, "It was originally just an experimental game for testing iPhone technology. I never expected it to work that well." Of course, it helped that such a young man made the game. While reviewing with Apple, Casey wrote in the description that he was 12 years old. This caught the attention of the company, and soon people from Apple contacted him and subsequently posted the game on their website. Since then, he has made several applications, including the sequel to Alien Ball. Considering his age, as expected, he attracted a lot of interest in his personage, and already in 2013, Jordan was invited as the Young Breakthrough of the Year to the Cannes Festival, where he even gave a speech, after which he was approached by the organizers of the Children's Day from Brazil and asked to make a game for them. To which he replied, "No problem." The game he created was played 15,000 times in the first day alone, and in 2013 he decided to become an entrepreneur and opened his own company called KC Games. Due to his young age, he had to register the company with his parents. At the same time, he hired the first employee. He was Aiden Blackett, his classmate who took over as art director, and it's worth noting that at this time, he was still in school. This is not to say that Jordan's further games were popular. According to Application Statistics Services, his new creations didn't receive so many ratings. But despite this, the young developer improved his skills and realized that he was only at the beginning of his journey. In 2014, Casey ventured into more sophisticated software by launching Teachware, an app that allows teachers to manage student information. He said, "The idea came to my mind when my teacher lost her big black book with all the details of attendance and test results of all the students. I then thought that it was 2014 on the street and the teachers were still using these antiquated grade magazines. Teachware is an application that is encrypted and stored in the cloud so that there's no possibility of losing information. After a year, more than 300 schools across Ireland were actively using it, and it's also now widely used in some countries in Asia, Africa, and Europe. Jordan even won an award for it at the 2015 Young Scientist Expo. When journalists interviewed him, they noted that Jordan Casey, despite his age, is modest but at the same time very confident in himself. He said that was not always the case. He said he used to be shy and not used to all the attention. When he was only 13 years old, he was invited to world festivals and conferences, and he was treated like a celebrity. They put him in limousines and put him in the most expensive hotels, and he was still that little boy with an old computer on the table. In January, he made his own game, and 4 months later, he was sent to tell the whole world about his story. Casey's parents still live in Waterford, Ireland, albeit in a brand new house that their son bought them. The father and mother now actually work in the son's company, holding important and key positions. The self-taught programmer is now the CEO and founder of companies such as Independent Game Studios and KC Games. I think it will come as no surprise to anyone that after Jordan made his first million in school, he loves to travel and open new startups. Today, he's a frequent visitor to the headquarters of such giants as Apple and Google. He speaks at prestigious conferences, and he often meets Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter. He's a speaker at the world's largest Silicon Valley entrepreneurship conferences, where he met with Jeff Weiner, CEO of LinkedIn. In summary, this is the story of an ordinary Irish boy who just decided one day, sitting at home, that he needed to learn something new and forever change not only his life, but also the lives of those around him. We are the masters of our own destiny, and each person is the smith of his own happiness. Do you agree with these words? Be sure to write your opinion down in the comment section below. And that's all for today, so be sure to hit like if you like this video. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more.